All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Neighbor. I am, hold on a second, let me queue up some more folks coming in here. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Neighbor. I am the city engineer for the city of Des Moines, also a Des Moines resident. And I've got Corey Bogenreef, our principal traffic engineer with the city, who will be presenting with me. I also have a number of other city staff on the Zoom meeting as well. John Davis, city traffic engineer, David Camp, chief design engineer, Tom Block, deputy city engineer. I also see that we have our ward council member, Josh Mandelbaum, with us on the meeting as well. So I still hear people trickling in. I also see our at-large council member Carl Voss with us as well in the Zoom meeting. So we're here tonight to talk about the Southwest 11th Street Complete Streets project. So these are improvements that we are proposing to Southwest 11th Street between Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway down south to Dart Way. So thank you for everyone that's joining us. This meeting is recorded. So Corey, if you go to the next slide here, we appreciate everyone attending us via Zoom. One of the benefits is it does allow us to record the meeting, so that way if there are folks who are unable to attend tonight, they can watch a recording of the website that we can post on our city website. So again, thank you for everyone attending. Some Zoom instructions. Hopefully you see, if you're on a computer or a kind of a smart device tablet, you see the menu bar that you kind of see on the screen here with the kind of some tools: mute, stop video, participants. If you click on that participants, it should prompt you with some options, and some of the options are to raise your hand or lower your hand. And so we ask that in order to kind of run an orderly meeting, we ask that if you have a question, please raise your hand. Then we'll call on you and work through the Zoom to mute and unmute you. And if you're on a phone, I'm not seeing any folks with that are on a phone, but if you're on a phone and I'm missing you, if you're on a phone, press *9 to raise your hand, and then *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Again, that's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Again, this meeting is recorded. So Corey and I are going to give a quick presentation to talk about the project, some of the background, and then we'll open it up for any questions or comments that you all may have. So next slide, Corey. So again, we're going to review what is the existing conditions for Southwest 11th Street. We're going to discuss the background for the project, give an overview, and then show what the improvements are that we're proposing. Then talk about schedule, next steps, and as mentioned before, we'll do a question and answer period. Next slide, please. So again, we're here tonight to talk about Southwest 11th Street. That is from Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway south down to Dart Way. This is kind of southwest of downtown, and so there's a lot of development occurring around this street, as you may be aware. So this is our limits and where our focus is tonight. Next slide, please. You can see here's just some photographs of the existing conditions as you see it. It is currently, Southwest 11th Street is a 3-lane roadway. That's one travel lane in each direction, north and south. And there's what's called as a bi-directional left turn lane. That's down the center as a 3rd lane. And then we have often parking, as you can see in the photo on the right, on both sides of the street. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Corey. Corey, if you can explain, kind of take it from here and talk about the background overview.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. Again, I'm Corey Bogenreef, principal traffic engineer with the city of Des Moines, and I'll just start off with a little bit of background on the project or how we got to where we're at. The city looking at this street really started, a few years ago with some of the development with Gray's Station and Gray's Landing, so in 2017. We completed a traffic impact study for really this whole area that's kind of shaded in gray, and with some of the changes, different proposals as part of this development, there's been some subsequent studies. So the first subsequent study really focused on Southwest 11th Street, and around 2018, the city was completing a downtown walkability study called Connect Downtown. And that project, as well as Move DSM, our transportation master plan, recommended Southwest 12th coming out of downtown, and then Southwest 11th as a core bike network facility. So as part of that, and as a supplement to that original Gray Station study, we completed a study on Southwest 11th Street. As there's been more proposals with the former Dyko site, with the Kraus Development's proposed soccer stadium district, we've actually supplemented the original study, and just want to make sure that everything that's developed, that our street network can handle the traffic, and that we're building this out in a smart and make sure that we're planning for the future. And so with all these studies, they all identified a few things relative to the Southwest 11th Street corridors. Number one, that the existing and future traffic would allow for the 3-lane cross section to be reduced down to 2 travel lanes, so 1 lane in either directions. And that will allow us to accommodate bike lanes on the street to meet the goal of it being a core bike network street. In order to do that, however, it was identified that at the intersection of Southwest 11th and MLK, that we would require a northbound left turn lane, similar as it is today. And I'll get into a little bit more of the details in the next couple slides. And then the last recommendation was that upon the completion of the proposed soccer stadium, that a traffic signal at Southwest 11th and Tuttle Street would be warranted. And so just kind of, I'm sure most are familiar with this area, but just kind of a general overview of some of the things that are happening and how everything connects together. This red box kind of shows, our project limits, and Southwest 12th north of here, there's been some work happening this past year, and we're hoping it would get done this year, but it's looking like next spring it will be restriped to include buffered bike lanes down to the Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway intersection. You also have the shared use path on the south side of the Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway Trail. On Tuttle Street, there's currently a cycle track being constructed. So on the south side, it's basically a bike only facility that's raised and off the street, and that would be extended to Southwest 16th as development occurs. The city also has this down here in the south, if you can see my cursor, another cycle track that's being developed as part of the Grays Parkway Street. And then you also have, kind of this connection down to Grays Lake via the Chris and Marcy Coleman Bridge. And so there's a lot of bicycle facilities. So this street really provides that link to all these different trails and bike lanes. There's also been quite a bit of development, as you can see, in continuing development, proposed properties being developed. The slate at Gray's Landing apartment here at the corner of Tuttle and Southwest 11th, as well as a proposed second phase of the Nexus development. So that's the general background of the project. I'm going to get into what we're proposing. And so as part of our process for determining making changes to a street, we kind of have this outline of a process where we look at, what are some of the modes of transportations, the commercial nodes, if there's important things that we need to consider, and we kind of go through these steps. And so not a lot of all too interesting information here, but you can kind of see that it's, on the bike network. It's not technically a transit route. Southwest 11th isn't, but with the DART facility on the south end of the corridor, buses do frequent this street. The existing speed limit is 25. We're not proposing to change that. You have an average daily traffic of about 4,000, and with all the development that's expected to grow, along with parallel parking on either side. And so this figure here in the top shows the existing cross section where we this would be south of Tuttle, where we have parking, 8-foot parking stalls on both sides with 12-foot travel lanes. And so what we're proposing to change is, as I said, we're going to reduce those 3 lanes of traffic to just 1 lane in either direction. And that allows us that additional space to incorporate a 5-foot bike lane and a 3-foot buffer. And so for the most part, that's one of the biggest changes you'll see. And I'm going to walk through kind of the details from the north side of the project to the south. So most of this will be done just with pavement markings and striping. So there will be some construction, especially up here on the north end of the corridor. We'll have to widen out the street to the east, where it's currently undeveloped, and we're doing that in order to get a left turn lane here. Based on the traffic study, if there's no left turn lane in most of the peak hours, traffic would actually back up quite a ways, almost to the Tuttle Street intersection. So this allows this intersection to operate similar how it is today, with the left turn lane and a through lane in either direction, but it also allows us to, accommodate the bike lane. There's some minor relocation of some traffic signal equipment, but otherwise it shouldn't impact any other utilities or disrupt much from a property standpoint. So you can see here kind of the typical cross section north of Tuttle. You have the 10-foot travel lanes with the 5-foot bike lane and the 3-foot striped buffer. We'll also incorporate some green paint, and we've kind of standardized that for locations around Des Moines. And so the best example now would be East Grand in the East Village, on similar to what the pavement markings will look like. As we move to the south, so this is moving south from Tuttle Street to Murphy. And again, you can see kind of the typical cross section where we're maintaining those parking lanes, the 5-foot bike lanes with 3-foot buffers, and the 10-foot travel lanes. A new traffic signal will be added to the Tuttle Street intersection. It's currently just stop controlled at Tuttle Street. So beyond that, there's no physical changes other than the pavement markings changing. And then as we go south between Murphy, here on the left side of the page, to Dart Way, again, our typical cross section of 8-foot parking lane on either side with the 5-foot bike lane and 3-foot buffer, and the 10-foot travel lane in either direction. And so again, we'll be incorporating the green pavement markings to denote the bike lanes. And really that's all the what we're proposing. So a fairly simple project, but when we have these types of changes, we definitely want to make sure that residents, business owners, people in the area kind of know what to expect and can provide us feedback on what we're proposing. So just a little outline of the schedule and kind of next steps. Again, today we have a public meeting. Our next step in our process is this project will go to our Transportation Safety Committee for their feedback and approval. And that will happen at the January 11th meeting after the first of the year. From that point on, we'll start the design process, so actually preparing the construction plans. And then next fall, about this time next year, we'll be putting that out for bid to hire a contractor to actually complete the work. This work would occur, is planned for over the calendar year 2023. We don't have a detailed schedule. We wouldn't have that until we actually hire a contractor. But the plan would be to complete all the work in the calendar year 2023. And that kind of comes before the tentative opening of the soccer stadium, which, as we mentioned previously, the traffic signal at Southwest 11th and Tuttle is recommended for the opening of the soccer stadium, and that currently is tentative for 2024 opening. So with that, that's our presentation, pretty short and sweet. So we would open it up for anybody that has a question. If you want to go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll call on you. You can unmute yourself and ask your questions or comments. So feel free to ask away.
Corey, this is Carl. I don't have a unmute. I'm sorry, raise your hand function. But
Okay.
could you just show a little bit about what's north of ML King, what that's supposed to look like? Is that on your plan or not?
I don't, but if you give me a second, I can, well, you can kind of see it here.
Yeah.
On the left side, I can pull up a better drawing if you want, but essentially you have a 5-foot buffered bike lane. It's really going to be buffered bike lanes north of here, with a travel lane in either direction. You have a right turn lane with the bike lane on the inside of the bike lane, one through lane southbound, and then a left turn lane. And so these lanes will, with the left turn lane here as well, it helps those lanes on the north and south side line up. We've also provided, or will be providing north of here, in the bike lane, kind of if somebody doesn't feel comfortable, actually there's not enough width to have this space buffered from those travel lanes. So we're kind of providing, I guess, for lack of a better term, like an off ramp. So somebody, with a wide 10-foot sidewalk, somebody who doesn't feel comfortable coming, riding the bike lane through the intersection would be able to come over onto the sidewalk and continue on as a pedestrian, essentially, and then hop back on the bike lane or hop back onto the trail.
Okay. Thank you, Corey.
Yep. Any other questions? We have a pretty small group, so feel free to, if you have a question, just unmute yourself. If you don't have the raise your hand function as well, and ask any questions.
And Corey, for the recording, is there, and anyone else on the call, if folks think of questions later, is there an email address that they can, or phone number they can reach that
Yes.
I think of something later here. Let's see here.
Yeah, and so I will, I should have put it on the questions, but I will pull up a document here, the meeting invite, and
So Corey, it looks like, in summary, while you're pulling that up, you had shown a screen that showed average daily traffic of 4,000 vehicles a day. From my experience, it seems like you could more than triple that in a 2-lane road would function just fine. And so that's why these improvements are critical. Also, you talked earlier about the improvements on 12th Street. This is a gap in our bicycle network. We're excited because we've got, if we can work on this, get this gap, improving 12th Street to add buffered bike lanes. Many folks may recall that Cherry Street was recently improved to add bike lanes. We're also have a project upcoming very soon, 5th Avenue, which will be improving to add buffered bike lanes. And then also improving Grand Avenue between 5th and 3rd which would connect us to East Grand and the East Village. And so we're making some major connections here, filling in some big gaps, connecting, frankly, our downtown with trail systems that have hundreds of thousands of users a year. So this is a huge connection, filling in a gap here, and with that works from all the different traffic modeling that's been done with all the future projected development. So.
Yep. Yeah. And as you mentioned, only about 4,000 vehicles currently. And just to give some context, East Grand, which has a similar cross section, I think has over 10,000 vehicles a day. So, and that operates, perfectly fine. One thing I do want to point out, if like Stephen mentioned, we are recording this. We'll have a web page with this recording and all the information on the project. So if you ever have any questions or want to come back and, wondering, what does a cross section look like, or what's the plan? Can I see some exhibits? If you go to our city website, you can navigate to the department's engineering, and on the engineering page, there's a projects and studies tab here, and it will have all the city's project, and there will be one for Southwest 11th Street. And I kind of find that the easiest way to navigate to it, and what I tell folks is to just come up to the search bar and just type in projects and studies, and hit enter, and it said no results, of course. Typically, when you type in projects and studies, it will take you right to this projects and studies page. But again, you can navigate to it, go to departments, engineering, and then on the left side, projects and studies. And there's a whole list of current and upcoming projects, and Southwest 11th will be added to that list as well.
Corey, can you go back to your plan, the aerial or whatever you call it?
Sure.
Yeah, so I just want, as long as you're in the neighborhood, I want to again emphasize it would be important to get from Southwest 9th and either Murphy or Tuttle down to Southwest 5th. And so I know that is not in this plan, but for the Cityville residents, I think that's an important connection to if they can get to Southwest 5th, then they can get to the downtown area, and that's because that's a dead end street. That's a lower volume street to either walk or to bike on.
Okay. Yep.
So both Corey, for you and Steve, I think that's it's been often talked about, and there hasn't been any action yet on. I know there's a challenge with some on-street parking, but I bet some good heads could figure out how to overcome that. So,
yep.
And it'd be nice to hear Josh to speak on this also. Josh.
So speaking specifically, what are you looking for?
For Cityville residents, so they're about at Southwest 9th, either to go on Tuttle or to Murphy over to Southwest 5th.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I think we want to get additional connectivity and figure out. I guess I don't know that I have the specific, but I would support the option that you were talking about, or I mean, I think we want that connectivity, and this particular project is a piece of that connectivity for downtown residents, and we know that we still have gaps nearby that we can work on addressing. So I would support additional additional progress along those lines.
So you can see where Cityville is, and that would be a much better way to go east rather than to go north. So
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions, comments?
I do have a question. So I am a resident in Cityville in the building that's right along Southwest 9th and Murphy. What is this going to do as far as impacting market rates for what we're paying here with the roads are going to be closed? Like the noise is insane with all the construction that's going on for those of us that work at home. So like, what's that going to look like with the length of time that that's going to be impacting things?
You're talking like specifically for this construction project.
Yeah, because it's going to be going on for a while. So I'm just curious, like it's going to affect a lot of stuff, especially in my building, since it's like literally on the corner of all of this.
Yeah, I would imagine, obviously with any project, the impacts are, there's going to be some level of noise and impact. I think for this one specifically though, it should hopefully be to a minimum because, we're not reconstructing the entire street. There is, some widening and sidewalk work that can be done here. And then obviously the traffic signal here, but I wouldn't, it's not like the street's going to be closed for, months on end and being reconstructed. It should be fairly quick. Now, not everything will probably get done all at once, but I think it should be a relatively, from a noise and construction standpoint, I think relatively small compared to, constructing a building or something.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's not just noise. I'm just curious, like how that's going to just affect the overall logistics of where my building's located for how long it's going to be closed. So that's why I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah. And I would imagine that a lot of the work, the signal work and the widening work could all be done, under traffic, so the street wouldn't be closed for that work. Now with the pavement markings, sometimes what has worked is to, in like an off-peak time, maybe an overnight or something, to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and do it kind of all at once. So you can close the street down, they can get in there and paint everything. We've done that and been successful in other locations, specifically East Grand. We did that in a few different chunks, but we won't know the details or how the contractor wants to do that work until we hire somebody. So we should have a better idea, kind of right before the construction starts in the spring of 2023.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments? Corey, can you go back to that screen where you had the contact information, just so we have it again, just to make sure, in case any folks think of anything later. So there's the contact, there's an email, it's eng-tt-web@dmgov.org. So eng-tt-web@dmgov.org is an email that folks can email comments, follow-up questions as well. So, okay.
All right. Yeah. And again, thank you all for attending. And in less than a week's time, we'll have this recording and all the information about this project posted on the city's website. So if you have any questions, this email address will be available there. But you can refer to that, and please, if you think of anything afterwards, just send us an email. We'll be happy to get you an answer.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you to our council members, Carl Voss, Josh Mandelbaum. Thank you for joining us as well. Thank you all the folks joining the meeting and taking your time. Like I said, I know it's early. This project doesn't happen until 2023, but we found success in having initiating public engagement, having these early on in the phase and the concept phase, so we can gather input before we start design. So again, our next steps are to move into design and preparation of bid documents and bidding for the construction in 2023. So with that, thanks everybody. Have a good evening.